This is One Voice Lenawee. Stay informed. COVID vaccinations and booster shots. How does this affect our children, finances, and the cost of living, race, and the fight for equity and equality? What will education look like in the future? What you should know about good health practices, employment, and job interviews in today's world. You need to know. Stay connected. One Voice Lenawee. Access to the information you've been looking for. Sponsored by United Way of Monroe and Lenawee counties. Now we present to you our host, D'Angelo Boone.
Welcome to One Voice Lenawee. One Voice Lenawee is sponsored by United Way of Monroe and Lenawee counties. I'm glad to have you with us here today on the show. Thank you for joining us. And looking forward to bringing you a fantastic show today. But first, a word from our sponsor.
736 million people struggle to meet their basic needs. An estimated 40 million people have fallen victim to human trafficking. 51 million kids go hungry every day. And every day, United Way and our partners, including Kellogg, Wells Fargo, and UPS, fight for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. And we have been spending a lot of time going over COVID vaccinations, different locations where you can receive vaccinations, how COVID-19 impacts your health, impacts your family, your friends, and your community. We're going to take a quick pause and bring you a tad bit of new information. During the pandemic, a lot of ventures have been created. A lot of opportunities have come about as well, and people are taking new approaches to income. So right now, I would like to bring to you our guest, Ned Thomas. Today, we have with us Anquinette Thomas, the founder and creator of the home health agency, Shenoa. So welcome to the show, Anquinette. Glad to have you with us today.
Oh.
And if you would you kind of walk us through what Shenoa is?
Well, I based it off a family-based organization where, like, I've been doing healthcare. I've been helping my grandma since I was 10, but I really got into doing healthcare at the age of 18. So it was always in my mind to, like, hey, I want to open up a home health agency, but I was procrastinating for 3 years. So, and then I started thinking about, hey, my kids, and I'm like, okay, so I'll make it as a family business.
Okay, all right. So that's pretty awesome that you had this idea some years ago and able to see it come to fruition in this time, especially during a time where a health agency, especially focusing on elderly, is really important and something that's needed in our community. When did you launch it? When did it start?
Well, I've had the name Shenoa in my agency like for a year, but I launched it on December 29th of 2021.
Okay. All right. Well, I like to say welcome to the community. Well, I like to welcome Shenoa Agency to the community and look forward to seeing the work that you're going to produce and do throughout the years to come. And I hear you mention that is a family agency. So something that's pretty awesome that this may have longevity with your children and that they may come into the health field as well. So that's pretty awesome to know. And if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, what was your driving force? Why this agency? Why now? Why with this population?
Well, because like I said, once I did it when I was 10, right from my grandma and my uncles. And like I always grew a passion to work with others because like they're funny actually. You like just sit and talk to them and understand where they come from and their mindsets on how life goes. Like they have lived the life that we live, that we're trying to live. And just sitting there and listening to like how much like you could buy a bag of chips for 2 cents was like really wise. And it was like, dang, if I was growing up in the age, 2 cents could get you a long way for a bag of chips.
Right. Right. Wow. Yep. And can you walk me through what does a day in the life of Anquinette Thomas look like when it comes to Shenoa?
First, I get up, get prepared, do my little workout, get my lemon water, and then I proceed to go to my client's house and make sure like they're up and ready. Or if they're not up and ready, I get them up, like have a conversation with them, just first do compassion work to see if they're ready to even get up and be willing to move around. Once they get their compassion and ready, we get up, get dressed, and we may go for walks if they're willing to walk, or if they want to just sit and watch TV. Like we sit and watch shows, and I just get them to bed and change, and I run errands and do most of important things that they need in their daily life.
Okay. Wow. So I would say that it's safe to say that in order to work in this field, you've got to have patience, a passion for this type of work, and be a part of this industry, and a concern for the care and well-being of the elderly population. So that's fantastic to know that we've got some young folks out there that are really digging their feet into creating this entrepreneurship type work in this field that's going to really service our elderly and those that are aging in place. If a person wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
By phone or email.
Can you share your email address with us?
It's netthomas77@gmail.com.
So for my studio audience that's watching right now, we're going to have that information for you at the end of the show. So just hold on, and you'll be able to contact Chenoa Agency and receive the services that's provided through her agency as well. So we'll have that at the end of the show. And Anquinette, are there any final thoughts or any words you'd like to share with the community?
My final thoughts is like just to like get as like much as possible. Like I said, I love working with elderly.
Thank you. Well, Anquinette, we really appreciate you taking the time this day to share this information, to be a part of the show, and to inform the community as to what services exist and how it's available and how they can make connection with your service as well. I believe that this will be beneficial for our community, and to see youth really take the health field by storm and create these new entrepreneurship opportunities. I think that's absolutely amazing, and definitely a kudos to you for being brave enough to come out and to create a new venture that's going to benefit our community as well. So I really thank you for taking the time to be on the show, and really appreciate the work that you're doing in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are grateful for all of the information that we have received since the launch of this podcast in November 2021, and look forward to bringing you more information as we continue. And if you have any thoughts or any suggestions as to some show topics and ideas, please share that with us right now in the comment section. Right now, just jot it down in the comment section. I'll be sure to look into it to see what other kind of topics that we can bring to the show. And we appreciate your thoughts and your comments as well. Please share that with us right now. Again, if you have not subscribed to our channel, take the moment right now and hit that subscribe button. At this moment, we want to take you back just a blast from the past and enjoy some of the clips of previous shows that have run on One Voice Lenawee. A lot of great information, a lot of great resources that we're able to provide for you at this moment right now. Hold on to your
But
seats.
sometimes the heart rim, the soul rim, the mind rim is a little slow getting the message, because life is left a hole in it due to molestation, low self-esteem, abuse. But I came to tell you that God is coming to heal a hole in your soul. My sister Leandria is going to help me with this story. Take your time, sister. Sing it for somebody. Deliver me. Rescue me from myself. 'Cause all I seem to do is hurt me. Anybody overthink a lot, that hurts you. Hurt me. That's right. Now let's take it up and cry out. Say, yes, sir. Deliver me. Take your time. 'Cause all I seem to do is hurt me. Anybody out there got that message? Hurt me. We should be finishing Shake it up. We're singing this for somebody. Get down on your knees and just say, if my people who are called by my name, just sometimes get back down on your knees and pray and say, anybody got a witness out there? Anybody need the difference from yourself, from your overseer? All right, this is it. Let's sing it out here.
Some of the things that we were discussing, that I've been discussing in the community, is we've got all these concerns going on. We've got all these questions that are taking place in our community, and the theories are kind of just migrating all over the community, and folks have this apprehension of regarding the vaccination. They've got these other concerns about COVID-19. What does it mean? What is it? How is it impacting our community? So I think it's really important that we connect with the right people to really get the proper information out there so that people can make an educated decision instead of just. One of the questions that I've come across is, what is the best way for our community to protect itself against the spread of COVID-19?
Well, I'll start this one, and I'm sure that Dr. Truman and I can both provide some information here. I do want to just say, D'Angelo, thank you so much for having us on the show tonight, because I do think it's really important that people get information from reliable sources. And we all see there's all kinds of things out there on social media, but we're just grateful for being able to have that dialogue with you tonight. So what are some of the things that you can do to protect yourself against COVID-19? And I would say that the best tool in our toolbox right now is vaccination. We need people to be vaccinated. And, anyone who is 5 and older is eligible to be vaccinated right now. The vaccine is plentiful. It is available at many locations in Lenawee County. If you go to lenawee.mi.us and click on the box, the COVID box, you can go to a tab for vaccine, and it will list all the locations. It will even tell you which locations are doing the pediatric vaccination. So lots of good information there, but I think that is the most important tool in our toolbox is vaccination. And if you're someone who's already been vaccinated with your initial series and you are eligible for a booster, which, just recently, that means anyone 16 and older who was previously vaccinated, I would encourage you to get those booster doses. Dr. Chernin, do you want to talk a little bit about just some of the statistics that we're seeing with regard to vaccination in individuals that are with hospitalizations and death associated with COVID?
Sure. By the way, thanks you for having us on. It's great to be here, D'Angelo. And it's hard to follow that sweet dance with statistics about COVID, because I think all of us are kind of up to here with COVID. But it's important to understand. I have some statistics here from the New York Times fairly recently, and at least one dose, all ages, 71% of the U.S. population has had at least one dose, and 60% of the U.S. population is now vaccinated. This includes anybody from 5 on up. The kids that are under 5 have not been approved for vaccines yet. The good news is that between 95 and 99% of the adults over 65 have been vaccinated, which is great news because the people who are over 65 are most vulnerable. and 87% of those have been fully vaccinated. So the vaccine dosage is 2 doses and hopefully a booster. And about 200 million people now in the United States have gotten at least 1 vaccine, and 230 million people have had 2 vaccines, and another 50 million people have gotten the booster dose. So that's pretty good numbers, but it's not enough because we have a lot of vulnerable populations. About 87% of the people who are in the hospital now, and also those people who are passing away from COVID, which is a very serious disease, 87% of the people have not been vaccinated. So really, right now, it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. So the numbers are staggering for the importance. It doesn't mean if you've been vaccinated, you can't get the disease, but it's much more mild when you have the vaccination. If you don't have the vaccination, you have the full-blown effects of the vaccine. Some of you may have heard about Omicron. It's, I think, one of the letters in the Greek alphabet. I think it's number 15, 13 or 15. It's similar to Omega. And in terms of that's what they're using for the nomenclature for the vaccines now. And so let me just explain a little bit about how the vaccine works, and then I'll talk a little about this variant called Omicron. So vaccines work because the virus itself has what's called a spike protein. You've all seen the little picture of the virus, and it has little peaks and points on it. Those are called spike proteins, and they get into the body when you're exposed. They attach to the cell membrane, and usually in the nose and throat and the lungs, the bronchial tubes, and they get inside the cell, and then they replicate inside the cell and cause the mischief that causes the disease. The lower your immune system, the more difficult it is to fight this off. So the vaccines work by, especially the mRNAs, we'll talk a little bit about that. That's the Pfizer and the Moderna, which is the majority of vaccines that we use in this country. And what they do is you inject this mRNA, it's messenger RNA, it goes into the cell, and it produces it's called coding. It codes for a spike protein, and the spike protein causes an antibody response in your body. So the body attacks this foreign substance. The good thing about mRNA, and even Johnson & Johnson, which is a DNA vaccine, it cannot cause COVID, but it creates an immune response so that when the body is now exposed to it, the body will fight off the infection by producing these antibodies, and they're called T cells, and they're neutralizing cells, and a bunch of other different kinds of cells, B cells. So it's very safe. No vaccine is 100% safe, but it's pretty darn safe. There's been hardly any major complications from the COVID vaccine, and it works remarkably well, especially for preventing serious disease. So that's a little bit how the vaccines work. So Omicron is a variation of the original Chinese variant that came to the United States, which is from the Wuhan province. And this virus has changed. The viruses have this natural ability to change, and it's called a mutation. So there's 30 different parts of this the COVID virus that has changed. So when it gets into the cell, it's a little bit different than the original ones. The vaccines seem to be working. What we're watching for is whether it takes over the Delta variant, which is the one that's been circulated. About 99% of all COVID viruses are Delta. But now we're starting to see it started in South Africa, and it's starting to take over Delta in South Africa. We have to wait and see here in this country. About 30 states right now have seen it. And the things that we're watching for are, one, we're watching for whether the virus is more pathogenic, meaning it's more infectious. I'm sorry, more virulent, meaning it causes more serious disease. And then we want to find out if it's more infectious. Does it pass to more people more quickly? And the third one is whether it evades the vaccines. So we have very preliminary data. We have to watch it carefully. The CDC and the World Health Organization and all the scientists right now are watching very carefully, gathering the data to make sure that we understand what's going to happen. Right now, it appears that 3 vaccines, at least in South Africa, where it's more widespread, seems to be containing it to the point where that people are not getting as sick as they were before. So certainly it helps to take the vaccine, even if it's not 100% it's successful in preventing it. It certainly can keep you from getting very, very sick, and that's the major thing we want to make. We want to happen for us is through the vaccine is to not die and not get very sick and get long-standing COVID.
Right? We all should know. So the CDC is working with state and local public health officials to monitor the spread of Omicron. And as of December 20th, 2021, which is just recent, Omicron has been detected in most states and territories and is rapidly increasing in proportion of COVID-19 cases it is causing. And current vaccines are expected to protect against severe illnesses, hospitalization, and deaths due to the infection with the Omicron variant. And vaccines remain the best public health measure to protect people from COVID-19, to slow transmission and reduce the likelihood of new variants emerging. And there's some other information that we need to know. And talking about Omicron, because that's the latest variant, and it's important that we have the right information and the right narrative out there, right? So COVID-19 vaccines are highly effective in preventing severe illness, hospitalization, and death. And this is coming from the Center for Disease Control, right? So these are coming from the volunteers that specialize in infectious disease, right? So that we make sure that we get some accurate information from a reputable source. And scientists are currently investigating Omicron, including how protected, fully vaccinated people will be against the infection, against hospitalization and death related to this new variant. It is regarding long-term complications. So some things that families are discussing that may take place years from now. This is their concern about taking the vaccinations now, between whether it's the Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson & Johnson. What their concerns is, what is it going to do to me long term? Has this been tested? Have we seen any results from this? So that's one of the questions that I would like to bring up right now is, what are the long-term complications, or are there any long-term complications?
So in part of that question, I'd love to do it in two parts. So first, I'll address your question on long-term side effects of the vaccine, but your viewers also need to start thinking about what could be the long-term side effects of having a COVID infection. An easy way that I can explain that one is when, you have chicken pox, many people get vaccinated for it because they don't want to get shingles. So there's another example of a virus that we know has long-term side effects. And COVID, we're still studying, so we don't know that part, but I'd love to circle back to that. But, as it relates to the vaccine, this vaccine has probably had the most intense safety monitoring in U.S. history. I've been asked questions, have the studies been shown to have efficacy against different ethnicities, different people of different skin colors? And yes, Moderna, Pfizer, J&J all had different ethnic groups in their studies. So African American, Hispanic, Asian, J&J even had Native Americans. So well-versed study group, great diversity, as well as age groups. We know there's a data reporting system called VAERS, and that's the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. That's been around for a long time, but many of us probably never heard of it until COVID, because now when we vaccinate folks for the COVID vaccine, we give individuals the data on the VAERS reporting system so they can report any side effect that they have. So when you look at some of the stats, I believe in the United States, we've administered over 223 million vaccines. So that's a lot of data we're collecting. And that data, the VAERS system captures potential side effects, but it can't tell us if that side effect is truly due to the vaccine. So when you look at that data, you have to realize people can report anything, but it's not proven until the scientists look into each and individual report if it's truly due to the vaccine. But what we know right now to date, there's 2 serious side effects that could happen after vaccination. And this is really rare. And most side effects would occur within the first 6 weeks. And I want to just emphasize that the risks of having COVID are higher than the risks of having an adverse reaction. So we're talking less than 0.001% are demonstrating this. But the first is anaphylactic reaction, which folks can have to any type of vaccine. And that's a severe reaction to one of the substrates in the vaccine. So you could have significant shortness of breath, elevated heart rates, A lot of people will say their throat looks like it's swelling. And if we have one of those reactions, then typically we treat it with antihistamines, so Benadryl, or steroids to try to reverse that effect. And then what we've seen reported out is about 5 individuals per million vaccines that we've administered get an anaphylactic reaction. So 5 in a million, so pretty low. The other one is what's called a thrombotic thrombocytopenic event. So that's just a fancy way of saying people that get blood clots with low platelets, which platelets are part of your blood. And we saw that in females that were less than 50 years of age with the J&J vaccine. And as of, I believe, the end of October data, they had vaccinated about 15.5 million people with J&J vaccine, and they had 48 cases of this. So again, really rare. It wasn't felt that that complication required us stopping the use of that vaccine. So the numbers are really small as it relates to the side effects. Most people, when they get the vaccine, particularly the second dose of a Pfizer or a Moderna, will have some localized reactions. So sore arm, redness at the injection site, fatigue, muscle aches, sometimes fever or chills. And they'll last anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. And then you wake up and you feel perfectly fine the way that you felt prior to getting vaccinated. We're also seeing the same incidents happen with people that are getting the booster. But again, you kind of go home, you take the day off, and you wake up the next day feeling fine. But if I could, just really quick, there's also long-term side effects we're seeing of COVID infection, and they're called the long haulers. And those are people that weeks, months, even greater than a year are still having problems with fatigue, breathing issues. I just talked to a friend who had COVID prior to the vaccine being out, and she's still requiring oxygen, and she was a triathlete. So no problems, just very bad luck. And a lot of people are having problems with concentrating. They call it brain fog, memory issues, sleeping disorders, loss of taste and smell. Some people are having heart issues, so they're requiring cardiac follow-up. So we are seeing from the data that we're collecting, there's also long-term side effects of getting the COVID infection.
I'm Robert Love. I've been with All About Adrian's 8-3 Coalition for about 4.5 years. Lynn shared with me about the neighborhood revitalizations, and it's just been a glorious path from there. Neighborhood revitalization to me is understanding that each member in the community have a responsibility. Well, each member in the community, such as myself, have responsibility towards the community, each other, our neighbors, and focus on what we can do to better ourselves. I've always had it in myself or in my heart to be a part of building communities. So the 8-3 Neighborhood Revitalization gave me that opportunity.
We welcome you to One Voice Lenawee, and we are glad to have with us Kelly Truchon, the Director of Health Services for Adrian College. And we're glad to have her with us to kind of share what's going on there at Adrian College and inform us as to the services that's provided there. So Kelly Truchon, we welcome you to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you are the Director of Health Services for Adrian College.
You know, I work in this beautiful clinic. The clinic is only about 5 years old, so it's brand new medical facility for the students here at Adrian College. Offers a variety of services for them, free of charge. We don't charge insurance for these students, so they can come in and set up an appointment with me anytime. Of course, Adrian College has done a wonderful job of navigating our new life now that COVID has entered. From the beginning of it, Adrian College formed together a preparedness team. We meet weekly and make decisions of how to keep our students as safe as possible and our staff as well. College life changed a bit, but we always look for the newest recommendations. We stay up on studies, and now we are, making vaccinations more convenient for the students, having it right here on campus. Yeah, so we are really grateful that we have such responsible students right now. You know, the second that these students are not feeling well, they reach out to the medical clinic and request a COVID test, and or they say, hey, I've had a close contact, I think I need a quarantine. So they are the most responsible students that I've ever come in contact with. So thankfully for that, we have been able to keep our numbers low. We've kept our numbers really low throughout the first semester. And so we just continue to navigate. We encourage students to stay away from the large group, large gatherings, which they have done a great job of doing so. They really work hard to mitigate the spread of COVID, and that's all we could ask for. Yeah, so I reached out to the state of Michigan and knew that they had a COVID response team that would come right here on campus, and they would bring Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. So all 3 vaccines are offered right here on campus. No charge of that, and no insurance billed for that either. You know, this is about the 6th clinic that the college has had right here on campus, which is given the students a great opportunity to get their first, second, and now a booster dose if they're interested. And we just keep encouraging, hey, get your booster if you're in the timeline to get your booster. Get fully vaccinated. It's the best way to protect yourself. And you know, we just refer back to all of the studies, and that's what they keep saying is research shows you get your vaccination, you get boosted. Wear your mask around, you know, large gatherings, stay 6 feet apart, wash your hands, cover your cough. And again, the students have just done a phenomenal job of doing this. And our response to this COVID clinic that's happening on campus today is just phenomenal. We had over 100 people reach out very quickly saying they were interested in getting their vaccine.
Again, this has been brought to you by United Way of Monroe and Lenawee counties. As always, we want to thank you for joining the show. We are glad to have you as a subscriber of our channel and a supporter of our show. And again, if you have any thoughts or any comments, please take the moment. Do not wait till later. Share that information with us right now. I'll be sure to get back to you on it. Also, as we're looking to bring more guests on, we encourage you to share this link with your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, so that they also may remain informed as to what information is available. And again, as always, thank you for joining us. We're hoping that you have a great night. Stay safe out there. It's cold. Dress appropriate for the weather. Drive carefully as well. And be safe, everyone. And have a great night.